Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely. There comes a moment in a woman's life when everything she thought was solid starts to shake. The people she trusted begin to drift away. The places that once felt like home suddenly feel strange. And just like that, she finds herself standing in the middle of uncertainty, wondering, why is this happening? But I need you to hear me. This is not the end. Not even close. This is the moment right before the rise. Because when God is about to bless a woman with something truly great, he doesn't do it in silence. No, he causes a shift so loud, so noticeable that she can't ignore it. If you've been feeling uncertain, like things are falling apart more than they're coming together, if there's a fire inside you but you can't figure out where it's taking you, then sister, it's time to pay attention. God is moving in your life. And when he moves, he does it in a way that transforms everything. Now let's talk about how you know your blessing is closer than you think. When God gets ready to give a woman something huge, he doesn't just drop it in her lap. First, he builds her. And that building doesn't happen in comfort. It happens through difficulty, through challenges, through the heat of life. You don't just wake up with unshakable faith. That kind of faith is created, it's developed in the moments when your world is falling apart and the only thing left to do is trust him. It's built when the bills are overdue and you don't know where the money is going to come from, but you still hold on to belief. It's formed when the people you love walk away and the only one left to lean on is God. It's forged when the enemy whispers lies in your ear. You're not going to make it, but you stand tall and say, oh yes, I will. Every strong woman you admire didn't get there because her life was easy. She got there because her life tested her. She stood in the fire and didn't let it consume her. She carried the weight and refused to break. When life tried to knock her down, she rose higher. And here's what I want you to know. The storm you're in right now isn't proof that God has abandoned you. It's the evidence that he's preparing you. Because the blessing he's about to deliver is too great for who you used to be. He's shaping you into the woman who can handle what's coming. He's making you stronger so that when that door opens, you don't just step into it, you step into it with power. So if right now everything seems out of control, if it feels like you're being stretched too far, I need you to really hear this. You are closer than you think. God is removing everything that doesn't belong in your next chapter. He's clearing out the noise. He's ending relationships that would weigh you down. He's letting you feel the discomfort because he knows if you get too cozy, you'll never move into what he has for you. Do you remember Joseph? God gave him a vision of greatness, but before the palace came the pit. His own brothers betrayed him. He was sold into slavery, wrongly accused, thrown into prison. But every single one of those trials was needed. Because the man who walked into Pharaoh's palace wasn't the same young boy who wore that colorful coat. No, Joseph had been changed. He had been made stronger. And when his time came, he wasn't just willing, he was ready. That's what's happening in your life right now. This struggle, it's not here to destroy you, it's building you. That betrayal, it's showing you who's really in your corner. That delay, it's teaching you to wait with grace. That heartbreak, it's making space for something better. That battle, it's sharpening your faith. And let me tell you, if the enemy is fighting you this hard, it's because you've got something powerful inside you. If you weren't on the edge of something great, he wouldn't be trying this hard to make you give up. That's why you've got to stand tall. You got to push forward because the blessing that's coming is more than you even imagined. And when it finally comes, you'll look back at this whole storm and see it didn't come to ruin you. It came to prepare you. So don't you dare quit now. Don't lose your belief. Don't let the enemy lie to you and say this is where your story ends. Because God is about to do something so big, even the ones who doubted you will have no choice but to say, only God could have done that. And when that day comes, you'll finally understand. The storm wasn't the end, it was the beginning. The setback was the setup. The preparation was for elevation. Because when God is about to bless a woman, He doesn't just hand it to her, He makes sure she's ready for it. And part of that preparation, it's separation. He removes people, situations, and habits that don't align with where you're going. And that's tough, because we're human. We like the familiar. We cling to what we know. We hold on to people because they feel safe, not because they're good for us. We stay in places that feel comfortable, even if they're holding us back, because change feels risky. But when God is getting ready to take a woman higher, He doesn't let her stay stuck. He starts separating her. People who used to feel close suddenly act different. Conversations that used to mean something feel empty. Friends you thought would be around forever drift away, and you're left asking, why is this happening? But what if I told you this isn't about losing, it's about making space? What if God isn't taking people away to punish you, but to prepare you? What if He's clearing the path so the right people, the right opportunities, and the right blessings can enter your life? Some folks were right for your past, but not your future. They were good when you were at one level, but they can't go where you're headed. Some people liked you when you were struggling, when you needed them, but the moment you begin to grow, to walk into your purpose, they can't handle it. And now you have a decision to make. Will you fight to hold on to what God is trying to move out of your life, or will you trust Him enough to let go? You can try to force friendships that don't fit anymore, or you can make room for new ones. You can cry over closed doors, or start preparing for the new ones God is about to open. Remember Abraham? God told him to leave his land, his family, everything familiar, and go to a place He would show him. God didn't give him all the details. He just said, go. And Abraham had to trust Him. Imagine if Abraham said no. Imagine if he stayed in the comfort zone. He would have missed everything God had planned. That's what happens when we refuse to let go. We stay small, we stay stuck, we miss the new because we're clinging to the old. But if some people hadn't left your life, you wouldn't be who you are now. If some doors hadn't closed, you never would have found the right ones. If God hadn't taken certain things away, you wouldn't have room for what's coming. So when you feel that shift happening, people acting different, relationships fading, paths changing, don't panic. Trust it. Trust that God is creating space. Trust that He's not taking something from you. He's making room for something greater. When God is ready to bless a woman, He doesn't just pour into her life. He makes space first. He clears out what's no longer needed so He can give her something extraordinary. If you can handle the loneliness of the in-between, you'll walk into a season more beautiful than you imagined. Don't chase after what God is pulling away. Don't grieve what He's replacing. Your next blessing is bigger than anything you've had to release. Let go, trust the journey, and get ready. Because when God removes, it's never for less. It's always for more. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she can feel something stirring deep within her. She can't quite explain it, but something inside her knows change is coming. It's not just a passing thought. It's not just a mood. It's a deep, unshakable sense that something is shifting. She wakes up and feels different. The things that used to bring her joy don't anymore. The conversations she once looked forward to feel shallow. The places that felt like home now feel unfamiliar. It's as if everything around her is transforming, and she stands there trying to understand what's going on. But this isn't random. It's not just a phase. This is God speaking to her spirit, saying, get ready. God always moves in the unseen before it becomes visible. Before a woman sees her breakthrough with her eyes, she feels it in her soul. It begins as a stirring, a restlessness, an inner knowing that change is near. She may not be able to put it into words, but she feels the pull, the urgency, the sense that something bigger is about to happen. Doubt may try to sneak in. She might ask herself, am I just imagining this? Because from the outside, nothing has changed. The problems are still there. The struggle hasn't disappeared. The dream still feels far off. But deep in her spirit, she knows. She knows that something has shifted. She understands that the life she's been living isn't all there is. She knows deep down she's being pulled towards something more. This is often how God speaks. He places a quiet hope in her heart long before the blessing shows up. He doesn't always provide details, but he does provide a sense, a holy nudge that won't leave her alone. And in that moment, she's faced with a decision. She can either lean into it, step toward it, and get herself ready for what's coming, or she can ignore it, question it, and let fear talk her out of what God is working on. This is why faith matters so much, because when God is moving, he doesn't always offer proof. He doesn't always show results right away. Sometimes the only thing he gives is a feeling, a shift deep inside, a quiet voice in her heart that whispers, stay prepared. And if she's not paying attention, she'll brush it off. She'll convince herself that nothing is happening. She'll let fear talk her into staying put instead of walking into her next chapter. But the women who walk into the biggest blessings, the deepest healing, the wildest favor, they are the ones who pay attention to that nudge. They are the ones who sense God's voice. Even when life looks the same on the outside, they don't wait to see the blessing before they start getting ready. They begin moving in faith, trusting that if God is stirring something in their soul, it's because he's preparing to act. Look at Noah. God told him to build an ark. When the skies were clear, the sun was out, no rain in sight, but Noah trusted what he felt in his spirit. He trusted God's word, and because he acted on that internal leading, he was ready when the storm hit. And it's what God wants from you too. You might not see the blessing yet, but something in your heart knows it's coming. You may not have every detail, but something within you has started to shift. You can't explain it, but you sense it. That's not just a thought. That's divine preparation. That's God making you ready. So what do you do when you feel that kind of stirring? You start getting in position. You begin praying more deeply. You act as though the blessing is already on the way. You release the things that distract you. You bring close the people who support your future, not just your past. You stop giving your time and energy to what no longer helps you grow. Because one of the worst things that can happen is for the blessing to arrive and for you to be unprepared. God doesn't give more to people who aren't ready for it. He doesn't open new doors for someone still tied to yesterday. He gives breakthrough to those who expect it, who prepare for it, who show they're ready for the next thing. So if your heart feels stirred, if there's a deep knowing inside you that something greater is ahead, don't push it away. Don't wait for it to make perfect sense before you move. Trust that God is working. Trust that he wouldn't stir your soul if he wasn't getting ready to shift your life. When a woman feels that deep knowing, that steady sense of anticipation, that spiritual unease, she is standing at the edge of something powerful. And all she needs to do is get ready when God is preparing to bless a woman with something major. He doesn't only give her a dream, he starts opening doors she never expected to walk through. Opportunities begin to appear out of nowhere, things she never could have made happen on her own. It's not just good luck, it's divine alignment. At first, those opportunities might seem too big too soon. She might pause, wondering if she's really ready because she's been praying for so long, hoping for so long, working and believing, even when nothing seemed to change. And now suddenly doors are opening that she didn't even knock on. People are noticing her. Help is showing up. Favor is flowing her way. But here's what matters. When God opens a door, he expects her to walk through it. Those chances weren't given just to tease her. They came because she is ready. Even if she doesn't feel like it, even if she doubts her experience or skills, God wouldn't have opened the way if she wasn't able to walk into it. The issue is many women hold themselves back from their own answered prayers. They ask for the opportunity, and when it comes, they second guess it, they wonder if they're good enough, if now's the right time, if maybe someone else would be a better fit. But when God brings something into your life, it's because he already chose you for it. He sees in you what you haven't yet seen in yourself. Think about Esther. She had no royal blood. She was just an ordinary girl. Yet God placed her in a position of influence. The opportunity was hers, but she still had to accept it. She had to walk forward with courage, believe in her place, trust that God put her there on purpose. And because she did, lives were saved. This is how God works. He doesn't just give the dream, he provides the steps to live it. He arranges the people, the moments, the shifts, so that everything lines up. But it's up to you to recognize it and act on it. And sometimes the opportunity doesn't look like you thought it might look like, more work or a challenge or something small that feels unimportant, but God doesn't always package his blessings in obvious ways. He often hides them in things that require faith to see. Maybe it's a job that feels average, but is actually a stepping stone. Maybe it's a call to speak or create or lead in ways you've never tried. And even though you feel nervous, God is stretching you into who he made you to be. Maybe it's a new connection with someone who sees your potential before you do. The key is being open to what doesn't match your plan. The small open doors, the chances that don't seem grand at first. Because often what looks small at first is really the doorway to something bigger than you imagine. And here's another truth: opportunities come with responsibility. When God opens a path, he expects you to show up fully, to do it with care and excellence, to bring your whole heart to the table. Because what's not handled with care can be lost. A woman who sees her opportunity as something God gave her won't play small. She won't let fear keep her stuck. She'll step in with boldness, knowing that if God led her to it, he will carry her through it. But the enemy knows this too. And that's why, right at the moment of breakthrough, fear shows up saying, you're not ready, you're not enough, what if you fail, what will people think? Because the enemy knows that if you walk through that door, if you step into what God has prepared, you become unstoppable. And this is where faith shows its power. You must believe that what belongs to you cannot be taken. You have to trust that if God made a way, the path is safe. You've got to move even if you feel scared, because courage isn't about having no fear, it's about taking the next step anyway. So when opportunities start showing up, when doors open that don't make sense, when favor begins to follow you, it's not random, it's God saying, now is the time. And all you have to do is walk through. When God is ready to bless a woman in a big way, she'll begin to notice that things start moving faster. What once felt slow or stuck suddenly begins to shift. Old delays are broken, new chances come out of nowhere, people respond quicker, things fall into place. This quick movement isn't by chance, it's from God. It's all the behind-the-scenes work finally coming together, and even though it may feel sudden, it's really the outcome of years of prayer, faith, and preparation. But here's what's important to remember. When God accelerates things, you have to be ready to keep up. You must be willing to release old patterns, old schedules, even old ways of thinking, because your old life won't hold your new blessing. You'll have to rise to the next level. You'll need to move with courage, not fear. This speed might feel like too much, like you barely have time to adjust, but that's only because you've spent so long in the waiting, you got used to the slow pace, to the hope that never seemed to arrive, and now that it's here, you have to shift fast. And this is where trust matters most. You must trust that if God is moving fast, it's because you are ready. You might not feel ready, but God's plan isn't based on feelings. He wouldn't move things forward if you weren't prepared. He wouldn't open doors if you couldn't walk through them. He wouldn't bless you if you weren't strong enough to carry it. Think of David. He was just a young shepherd living a quiet life. And suddenly he was in front of Goliath. Suddenly the whole nation knew his name. He didn't have time to ease into it. When acceleration hits, it often comes without warning. Life changes quickly in ways only God could arrange. But with acceleration comes change, and that can feel scary. A woman who's waited for years might feel safe in the struggle because she's learned how to live there. But now God is saying, no more delay, no more struggle, it's time. And That's when things start moving. The job offer shows up, the money arrives, the relationship gets healed, the business starts booming, and she has to be ready to move with the speed because divine acceleration waits for no one. When God says it's time you move, and trust He'll lead you every step of the way. She can't spend her days overthinking every tiny detail, waiting for everything to feel perfectly clear. She has to take action. She has to step boldly into the opportunity. She must welcome the blessing without constantly questioning if she truly deserves it. This is where a lot of women miss their moment. They ask for progress, but when it comes, they pause. They hesitate. They hold tight to the familiar because it feels more secure. But forward movement doesn't wait for comfort zones. Acceleration asks for courage. When God says move, she needs to move. That means if the relationship she asked for suddenly shows up, she must open her heart and be emotionally ready. If the breakthrough in her career finally appears, she has to meet it with confidence. If the door she's been knocking on for years suddenly opens wide, she can't stand there doubting. She has to walk through it. And there's something else about acceleration. It comes with pressure. The quicker things unfold, the more she'll have to carry. The enemy will try to convince her that she's not ready for the pace, that she's in over her head. But what she has to remember is this: God never moves someone forward quickly without also giving them the strength to handle it. Think about Joseph. He spent years forgotten in a prison cell, left behind and overlooked. But when his time finally came, everything shifted in an instant. In one day, he was taken from a prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt. There was no room for delay, no space for hesitation. He had to accept his calling right then and there, trusting that if God brought him to that moment, God would also carry him through it. And that's exactly what God does for every woman He pushes forward. If she's in a season where things are shifting fast, where opportunities are lining up, where doors are swinging open, where the impossible is becoming possible, she needs to understand that this isn't just coincidence. This is divine timing. This is God saying, you've been faithful, you've waited, and now the moment has come. So what should she do now? She needs to adjust. She needs to keep up with the pace of God, not the pace of fear. She has to welcome the changes, not fight them. She must release hesitation, silence the inner critic, and let go of overthinking. Because if she keeps one foot in the old while trying to step into the new, she'll feel torn in two. But if she surrenders to the acceleration, if she believes that God's timing is always right, then she will see a breakthrough that doesn't just touch her circumstances, but transforms her life. So if things feel like they're speeding up, if doors are opening out of nowhere, if the shift feels heavy, she must not be afraid, she must not shrink, she must not let fear convince her that she isn't ready, because the truth is, she is ready. That's why everything's changing. That's why what used to take years is happening in days. Because when a woman is about to step into her God-given season, delays are removed, barriers disappear, and divine momentum takes over. And when that happens, there's one thing she must do: stay in step with God's pace. When God is preparing to bless a woman in a major way, she might notice people quietly slipping out of her life. It might not always be obvious. Some might walk away without saying a word. Some may slowly become distant. Others may start acting differently, showing her that they no longer belong in her future. It can hurt. She might ask herself, what went wrong? She might question why connections that once felt strong are now fading. She might try to fix it to make them stay. But what she needs to know is this: when God is getting ready to move her into a new chapter, He will remove anyone who's not meant to be part of that story. Not everyone is built to go where God is taking her. Not everyone will celebrate her blessings. Some people were only meant to walk with her for a season, not for the full journey. And when their role ends, God will allow them to drift away, not to hurt her, but to protect her. Because here's the truth: some relationships are holding her back more than she realizes. Some people have been draining her. Some friendships have been keeping her comfortable in places where she was called to grow. Some voices have been shaping her thoughts in ways that go against the work God is doing in her. And when he's preparing her for more, he starts to remove what no longer fits, even if she doesn't want to let it go. It's not always because they're bad people. Some are good-hearted, but they're not right for where she's going. Some mean well, but they don't have the strength, the wisdom, or the mindset to support her next chapter. They were meant for who she used to be, not for who she's becoming. Think about Abraham. When God called him to a new place, he didn't tell him to bring everyone along. He asked him to leave behind the familiar, to part ways with certain people, and to step into the unknown. Why? Because elevation requires separation. Sometimes the very people she's trying to keep in her life are the ones quietly keeping her from walking fully into God's plan. And this is where many women get stuck. They try to bring everyone along. They try to explain their growth and make others understand their transformation. But not everyone will understand. Not everyone will support the change. Some will resent it, some will question it, some will even try to pull her back